Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Tiny Matters with Dr. K. Fatherhood has changed. Today, fathers are expected to nurture, provide, communicate, be available, cook, attend sports matches, help with homework, support their partners, and somehow still hold everything together. And yet, despite all these expectations, not nearly enough time is spent talking to fathers about how this is working out. Today, I plan to change that. And joining me in this conversation is Dr. Beta, a father, a speaker. Nguleko, welcome.
Thank you so much, Dr. K, for having me. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Very well, thanks. Very well, thank you.
I'm very excited to be having this conversation.
Same here.
I think we speak to women all the time. Mental health around women is something that's discussed so openly and so easily.
Yeah.
And even though the conversation with men is getting easier and it's getting better, it's not happening nearly as often as we need it to be happening.
It's not happening.
So let's start with Nkululeko the father, before we move on to your role as a psychologist.
Okay. That's a tough one. So I think Nkululeko the father is a person who discovers new things every day.
Okay.
You know, because currently I'm living with my daughter and she is a ball of performance. So I think for me it's forever discovering that you know nothing is forever static.
Yeah.
It's just quite dynamic.
Yeah.
So Nkululeko is always learning that this is how you should approach certain things. From being this aggressive father to now being very gentle to say, no, what's wrong? How can I actually make it better? How was your day at school? Having conversation that speaks to your emotions as well. So yeah, I'm forever learning new things.
How old is your daughter?
She's 8.
She's 8.
She's
Okay.
turning 9 this year.
All right. And how would she describe you? She were able to articulate the kind of dad you are? How do you think she'd describe you?
She calls me super dad.
Oh.
So she knows I'm always there and whatever she needs, I'm there. Certain things in the house or she's not getting her way, she knows where to go.
Super dad. Okay, tell me, what is the parenting hill you're willing to die on?
I think what's important for me is having them understand what it means to be themselves as well.
Yeah.
So I've definitely done the hill of actually ensuring that they perform their identity as well. So for me, that makes me happy. So if I live, I'm happy.
What does that look like in daily parenting?
It looks like them defining themselves by virtue of their performing. For instance, as through simple things as I prefer this particular chocolate to that sport to this, to dressing this way to that way, because now she wants makeup, she likes painting fake nails and things like that. That's her performing a particular rite of passage. So that for me, it looks like that. And me noting that as well.
Yeah.
So it also means that I need to always be consciously aware of her
what's
growth
happening.
as well.
Yeah, and what's happening out there.
Yeah, it's forever changing.
So let me ask you this. So if psychology knowledge aside, what is the biggest thing that being a father has taught you?
I think what it taught me is that I need to make mistakes of my dad. I need to actually rectify them. I think that's one thing that is actually, and that for me is presence. You know, him dying at a very tender age, I told myself that I'm going to be there throughout. First games in and. So I think for me it has taught me that apart from anything and everything, presence is the most important thing for me.
So you lost your dad at a young age?
Yeah, at a very young age actually, because you know us, we're not like the 2000 who remember, who has beautiful memories of childhood. Like when I was 4, I don't remember anything at 4.
Yeah.
So I think I lost him at a very tender age actually. I remember the day he passed, he told me that he's not scared of death.
Sure.
And then I remember cousins coming in to tell me your dad is, you know.
Sure.
And then I remember also just growing up, people stop me and tell me that your dad loved you, you know.
Yeah.
He took you wherever you went, this and that. So that for me gave me a sense of comfort as well.
Yeah.
You know, so that he, as much as he wasn't there, I'm going to be there though.
Yeah.
You know, I'll do better by actually being there.
And you know that he loved you.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know. That I definitely knew.
Yeah. And that's probably something you're carrying into your parenting now. Just being very vocal and expressive.
They're very vocal about that. Very vocal about how they feel, from my nephews to my nieces. You know, I tell them I love them. That's all. I love your uncle. I love your dad. It's very important that they say that. And that also gives me a sort of third eye to see if anything is a problem, if there's any problems.
Yeah.
They're not saying it as much.
Yeah.
So it's now easy for me to change things
Yeah.
and see.
Yeah. I think you said such an important thing around kind of childhood trauma and going back to, your childhood. Anything about your childhood that's been triggered by fatherhood for you?
A lot. I mean, like for instance, when I think my father passed away, I was my daughter's age.
Sure.
So I'm like, she's quite special to actually have that. Because I remember also growing up and raising her, I'd always have this subconscious negative thing that, maybe I'm not going to live or outlive him as well. Maybe I won't be there in terms of when she's at this particular age, her getting married, this great, that great. But I feel like, things happen in a very spiritual sense as well, to say that I'm here, I'm present. So I think that has called me to be more present as well. So that trauma for me is a trauma that keeps me away. Because I mean, it's what Friedrich Nietzsche, a German philosopher, once said, that idea of death has saved my life so many times. So it means that the anxiety of you perishing or not you existing has actually
living more in the present.
It keeps you more in the present, it keeps you more awake. And by virtue of you having that particular anxiety, it means whatever that you're doing, it's quite important to you.
Sure. What are the parts of yourself you've only learned to discover now since being a dad?
That I don't like small talk when I'm fetching my daughter at school.
Okay.
I don't like that, those chit chatters, and I'm just there in and out. I want that, and yeah, I think that for me is one thing that has stood out in terms of my own personality, whether being introverted, extroverted, and also that just like being a dad, there's a lot of humor in your kids as well.
Yeah.
There's times where I'm laughing, I'm like, actually, I'm having fun.
Yeah.
This person is quite smart, tiny but very smart.
Yeah, I actually enjoy this.
Yeah, I'm actually enjoying it. Gumbos, all of these programs, that they watch, and and then you get to wonder, like, where are they picking these things up?
With your background as a psychologist, I think you're so used to people coming to you for answers all the time, right? And so what is a question you've had to kind of learn to answer for yourself since becoming a dad?
So that's a tough one. I think for me is when I get a lot of people coming to me, and it's quite tough. I think what I've learned is that emotions can't be separated from who you are and what you do in life. Because at times I'd go to work, I'm feeling sad because my daughter went to school, the school called me now, she needs a jersey or something. So that also just affects in terms of how I operate as well. So I then actually saw that when it comes to there are certain things then stop. I've learned to actually incorporate all of those things. So I think I've learned that they matter a lot. They really, really matter. They have the ability to stop and make a lot of things pause. So I think for me, it's just being that, and also reflecting on that, they are quite young, especially my youngest, not having the cognitive ability to say what they want and how they want it. So I'm already thinking, you need to try everything. It's just always a trial and error there. Of this or that. Okay, now she's calm. He's no longer crying, so therefore maybe he likes that.
Yeah. I think that's such an important thing that you've raised, because I think so much of historical fatherhood was not the emotion. You've brought up that the emotions are important and let's deal with them and let's work through them. And for a lot of fathers, that was not the reality. Emotions were not a thing. Emotions were not addressed even by your dad. Your dad neither felt emotion or knew how to handle emotion. And I imagine that this is a big part of the change in what it means to be a father and to be a man today. In your opinion and from your work, what do you think that men and fathers particularly are struggling with at the moment?
I think they're struggling from exactly that shift, whether it's a first industrial revolution in terms of emotions, in terms of looking at what we call hegemonic masculinities as well. I think we also need to look in terms of how we raise the boy child as well. They come from an era where particular emotions are not being shown.
Yeah.
And by virtue of that, most men, hence we have a lot of GBV cases. For us to communicate a particular emotion that is pain, it's easier for us to express frustration, anger, which is secondary though.
Yeah.
The major influence in that is actually pain. So one thing I've noticed in terms of them, they never had that capability to actually, even the platform as well. In the olden days, Dad had a chair, You don't speak to dad. Dad
Yeah.
comes from work, from
Yeah.
the mines, blah, 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 blah. Dad is loving by virtue of that my fees are paid.
Yeah.
But I think now there's a much more drift and drive, having to see dads in that way. So there's a lot of drive in terms of femininity that we don't see, but we can actually, experience by virtue of how they speak as well. Dads are making appointments. Dads are doing certain things, that are actually predominantly known as women. So as much as it's a man's world, but there's a nice, beautiful introduction of femininity that I'm also seeing in terms of the spaces as well. I'm having to speak about certain conversations with her that by virtue would be a woman or a mother that would be doing that as well. I'm teaching my kids in therapy, especially the boys that I see in therapy, that's okay to cry. And they cry. It makes me amazed. It makes me feel good seeing them crying, seeing them actually, no, listen, I didn't like what mommy did because of A, B, C, and D. So I give them a space or a world where they can escape and then have them introduce this particular world into this actual world. So I think that's the most important thing that I feel like most men are struggling with.
Yeah.
As the men that comes from that particular, realm where emotions
We're
are
not a
scarce,
thing.
because I mean, looking at evolutionary psychology, when we look at apes, the best ape who had the greatest muscles, went to war, came back, will actually get mating rights.
Yeah.
So we still have that thing, where if I'm frustrated, if I'm mad, it shows that I'm quite strong.
Yeah.
So I'll give good offspring as well.
Yeah.
Meaning
Strong
discipline in that
offspring.
way.
Yeah. When you talk about this, I always think of this age of responsive parenting, basically, where, we are very much aligned to the emotions of the child and our emotions in how we discipline our children and how we teach our children. And I don't imagine that could have been a thing many years ago. And I think it's got to do so much with our own emotional regulation, particularly your father's emotional regulation. We so often hear about mom guilt. Mothers are always talking about kind of mom guilt and how we feel we're not doing enough in kind of parenting our children. Is dad guilt a thing?
Sure, it's a thing, eh? It's a thing. As much as I don't express it to my sisters, but it's a thing. On Friday, they were playing in a netball game somewhere in Roodepoort. So I was driving there. There was a huge accident. I missed the game. As much as it makes sense, but for her it doesn't.
Yeah.
Dad is not here. She looks around. Dad is not here. So I was feeling very sad. I'm like, oh shucks, she should have left earlier, blah blah blah, things like that. And also sometimes when I'm working, I'll come back late. She's already in bed. Like, I don't like that. I want to see her go to bed. I want to hear those little good nights, coming to dad, giving me a hug, reading her bedtime story. So the guilt is actually quite deep. But what's beautiful about this guilt is not a guilt of, for instance, not being able to buy a nice toy. And then I feel guilty. It's a guilt of actually, again, it speaks to the theme of being present. It's just exactly there.
Yeah. And I always really think that children will be disappointed in the parent who usually shows up, so the fact that children are able to express that disappointment means that you show up and you've usually responded to the emotions. So on the background of that, I actually think it's a really good thing.
It's a good thing. Able to express the emotions.
Yeah. So traditionally, there's been this enormous pressure on men to provide for their families financially. We're seeing a big shift in kind of gender roles in the home, where some men are not able to, be the sole provider financially for their families. How is that affecting men emotionally? And what are other ways that they can kind of start to show up for their families where the financial provision is not necessarily possible?
That's a good question, because historically, culturally, society, men is divided by their ability to provide. Like phenotypically, in terms of their own definition core, a man is seen by virtue of what they can actually show in terms of providing security and provision as well. So that becomes quite a problem if that is actually taken away, whether the mother earns more or he is not able to do so. So that builds up a lot of internal, conflict inside that I'm not able to do this. So therefore I'm not seen, I'm not acknowledged. It speaks to a lot of dysfunctionality around, particular mood disorders, your depressions, your anxieties, your bipolars, your also type of aggressive type of persona or characters that actually exhibit. There's a lot of high alcoholism as well, substance abuse that actually then is factored into such things. So the picture's quite a very, not so great one if the man is feeling that way. And pressure is also felt. Sometimes you find that maybe in that home setting, the woman or the mother is not saying that you need to do A, B, C, and D. By virtue of him knowing that he can't, he feels that enough pressure to actually know that, listen, I need to do certain things. Hence, now, the picture where we live in this country, it's quite easy for them to actually venture into crime, to things that are actually not quite, progressive
Legal.
as well. So I think there's a lot of things that men can also do by virtue of that. And it speaks to what I spoke to in terms of presence, in terms of involvement as well. I've noticed there's a time where I was driving around a township where I saw a man actually walking the child to school. That is something else.
Yeah.
I mean, he doesn't have a car or anything, but he's actually walking. I can imagine the stories that this child will never forget from just walking with dad to school. That is something else. So dad then actually goes there, he knows the friends that he actually meet when they get to the gate. He knows the security gate, the security guy, and things like that. So that is actually quite important. So the presence can also be a substitute to them not being able to provide. So doing those little things, and that actually can get them to actually feeling that they're a part of this person's upbringing as well. So just talking to them, bonding, taking walks, exercising, reading, and making sure that whatever the child is interested in, the father is a part of that as well.
Yeah, I think that's so important, because I also think that not necessarily being able to provide financially does not reverse the gender roles completely.
No.
There's still such a strong masculine presence that a father can provide that no good mother can ever provide. So I think you've said it so well, that just not being able to provide financially doesn't mean
and the father can be an uncle, can be an uncle who is very much vested or rooted in cultural things. This uncle, amazing uncle, can then teach how to slaughter, how to do certain things, how to speak in terms of traditionally or so, or could be a person who's very much inclined in terms of spiritual things or religious things. That can also be seen as something that he's compensating on.
A lot of women in the workspace will be, very successful professionally, but kind of carry a silent worry about not being present at home. Does the same kind of guilt apply to men? Do you see men really being concerned with that kind of thing?
I'm not gonna lie. Hey, I mean, in my experience, I haven't seen them reflect that. It's still there, embedded in them subconsciously to say, but I'm doing A, B, C, and D. It's the same methodology that they then take to their romantic relationships or to the mother. I'm gonna buy you a fancy car, but you're not happy. Why is it that you're not happy? Maybe it's because you're not listening. You wanted us to get a bigger home or something. I'm just thinking that. So men still has this thing, Hori, I am providing, so therefore certain things I'm not going to make up for time. I'm not being there, I'm not presenting at soccer matches or netball games, but by virtue of you being able to be in that school, it means I'm doing something.
I'm a great dad.
I'm not seeing I'm not seeing guilt there as yet. I'm not going to lie. I'm not seeing men who are then reflecting to say, but I wasn't there, I'm not being there, I'm not, So I think we still need to actually create certain awareness for them to be aware of that. That also can be seen as something as, that can actually be a trauma as well. That my dad was never there, he never showed up. But as much as the fees were paid, but I don't remember seeing my dad, parents' evening, gala dinner, prize giving, things like that. Because it's important for them to see the recognition. It changes the child's. I remember this one time my daughter was doing a concert. When he actually saw me, by the audience, she was so happy. So it does something to a child. It really does something.
I think it's definitely something we need to work towards, the almost unteaching that provision kind of trumps everything else. But I think it'll take a while.
It will. But I'm glad we're aware of it though.
What do you think are the barriers to men asking for help? Because I think we know now that so many men are emotionally overwhelmed and struggling with mental illnesses and struggling with pressure to perform and pressure to provide, but not always accessing the channels that are available. What what do you think needs to happen for men to open up and ask for help?
I think the first problem is that they've occupied this particular role of being strong for the longest. So for them, they don't know how it looks like being vulnerable as well. Remember, vulnerability for them is something like they don't want close, or they shy away from that. So for them, it's quite difficult to access any channel that speaks to help, to access any channel that says, I'm not, the power dynamic has shifted. So I think in light of actually understanding and knowing that there's still a lot that can be done in terms of bringing men closer as well. And to, like, for instance, I was doing a mini, I don't want to say a stupid series of men who enter changing rooms as well. There's that thing that I just buy a t-shirt. I don't fit, I don't change.
Yeah.
I feel like it's wasting time.
Yeah.
But there's a femininity to that as well. Because predominantly, the opposite sex, women are known to take their time. They're quite particular in terms of groceries, or especially worse when it comes to shopping and things like that. They take time. They're quite peculiar with that. Whereas men, we just buy this and we're gone. So I think with that, things like that can also, trigger something in them, that just entering, a clothing store and just wanting to fit things before buying them. And also when you are actually getting ready or preparing, spend time in the mirror as well.
Yeah.
Man is one creature, Socrates says, that avoids reflection.
Yeah.
We tend not to look in the mirror quite often, which is quite metaphorical as well.
Yeah.
Reflection for us is something that we fear. Even though we can reflect and be at the cornerstone of actually feeling guilty and being, ridiculed by ourselves, change then comes at a very slow pace.
Yeah.
We know the truth that we are living with, but we don't act or act it out as well. So I think there's a lot that we can do in terms of actually understanding and actually making them know that there's particular access to certain things, and not only act when certain things are going wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's exactly that. When you look at GBV cases, violent natures or acts, and then especially looking at suicide as well. We are the most leading people that actually commit suicide as well, because of this inability to actually access channels, and also at the right time, and know when to do so as well. Yeah.
What can we do? What can women and partners do in the home to kind of encourage a more mentally, emotionally available, open father in the house?
I'm not putting this as woman, please don't kill me, I'm not putting this as the role of woman, because they already have their own burdens that they're carrying as well. They don't need to be Bob the Builders of some sort.
Yeah.
But I think what they can do is that, because men like to mirror things more than what they are being told, and then change as well. So women are very much known to speak out. They are very much known to talk in terms of how they feel about certain things as well.
Yeah.
So having ground rules in any intimate relationships, whether it's also intra and interpersonal relationships as well. So I think it's very important for us to actually, challenge or channel conversations that speaks or challenge the discomfort inside.
Yeah.
So when there's a lot of discomfort, men tend to shy away, but that's when actually those growth opportunities come into that as well.
Grow,
So I think it's important to actually invite them every now and then to talk about certain things, talk about death as well. Death is one thing that men tend to avoid as well, especially fathers in the family, where they see like, okay, they've lost both parents. So I think certain things like that can also be challenging to speak about things that make them feel quite emotional as well in the household. Yeah.
Yeah. I think earlier on, and it may have been, off recording, you touched a little bit on influences, and how certain influences in our childhoods are going to determine how we show up as fathers. A lot of households in South Africa are growing up on a single parent, and a lot of them, I think the picture's changing now, but a lot of households still have no fathers. What is that showing up like in our sons?
It's showing up as siyazama,
hustling, trying.
I did a mini series around baby mama talks. Baby mamas are seen to be this toxic, very violent woman as well, but we tend not to understand that it comes from a particular space. That relationships, I admit people, because they're coming to me from a relationship issue.
Yeah.
I get to send them to the psychiatric hospitals because of that.
Sure.
Because they're operating from a frame of reference that lacks a particular mother whom they can look up to as well, to say, this is how I was raised. So it's the same thing as fathers as well. fathers, I mean, they die at a tender age, or
Yeah.
they're never present at all.
Yeah.
So it's quite difficult for me now, as a person who's now, I'm a 27-year-old, I have this particular baby that I need to now father, whereas I don't have any frame of reference. So that particular influence will now shape how I then parent this child. So I'm now looking outside to say, how do I then do this? How is it so? And
Yeah.
women will always be at the forefront of taking that. So then you tend to take a back step as well, to then say, let me see how it actually happens. But it looks to the son in terms of how it then presents itself, is that, there's a way of seeing it, especially a boy child, that there's no masculinity in this child.
Yeah.
And I always get mothers, in the practice that says that at least the uncle is there,
Yeah.
there's nobody there to speak to this child. You find
Yeah.
the child, they're playing with makeup brushes and things like that, because there's no masculinity in the household as well.
Yeah.
So I think it's also important to try and introduce, in a sense, that, certain things are needed in the child for them to identify that, listen, as much as, my father's operating or parenting from an absence of fatherhood, at least this is how he's doing certain things.
Yeah.
And also for us to close this gap to say, as much as I did not have A, B, C, and D, I can then also shape this to make it something that is quite positive as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the difficulty of an absent parent is then the child then almost doesn't know what it is they're supposed to need from
Yes.
that parent, because they are not there, What is it that sons need from their fathers?
I think sons need, because Albert Bandura says, they're from that particular age, they learn by observing. So can you imagine if I'm not observing anything from anywhere?
Yeah.
But in this particular light, if I'm observing a dad, what is a child that needs to see from the dad?
Yeah.
I think he needs to say loving.
Yeah.
The dad needs to actually show how love looks like in the
Yeah.
household, from treating
Yeah.
the mother, from treating them as well. And also know that, okay, as much as dad is like that, as much as you want a dad that is expressive, but we're not limiting dad to express particular emotions. We still want anger. We still want particular, dad to be frustrated because I did A, B, C, and D. That teaches us a lot of, that life has, particular
and
choices and
downs.
ups and downs,
Yeah.
and there's consequences to our actions as well.
And coping mechanisms, I
Exactly,
think.
give them that as well, to say that this is how I cope as well. This is a healthy coping one, or this is a negative or cognitive or distorted belief as well. So by that, ensure that is actually there.
Yeah.
So, from church perspective, from a particular system where we are now involved in a community, how is dad being seen as well?
Yeah.
Outside of dad seeing me, how do I then, understand and define dad?
Yeah.
So those things are quite important actually as a son to take from a dad, or as a daughter
Yeah.
to take from a dad.
Yeah. Okay,
That
that was
guidance.
my next question is what do daughters need? What do daughters need from their fathers?
Oh, yeah, they need the most amazing love, I think that for me, a daughter needs to look up to her dad. He needs that security, he needs that provision as well, so that she then knows how it's like, or when she's actually, when an injustice is being done to her by a partner or by anybody that is a male figure in her life. So I think fathers out there, we have no choice but to be great to our daughters. You need to actually do right. Everything there needs to be perfect. I'm sorry. It needs to be proper to a point where we don't get too worried. Because a dad's worry is it's that the daughter being treated ill by another man. It means that I haven't done much by my daughter choosing that particular person.
That's difficult because I think just from what you said, you've quite increased the pressure of a father and his responsibilities to his children, because it's basically everything, and
It is.
probably a big part of why so many men are struggling, and so many men are choosing to run away, for lack of a better word. Not correcting it or saying it's fine in any way, but I think it's an insane amount of pressure.
It is.
I think it's an insane amount of pressure to, like you say, realistically, we've accidentally created that culture where financial provision comes number one, but now we've added emotional presence, teaching them their identity, their sense of self, that they're going to learn it from you,
Yes.
teaching our daughters how they need to, the behavior they need to accept from future partners. It really is.
I know it's a lot.
It's a lot on men, and particularly, like I said, on today's men who didn't necessarily have that example or that template growing up. From your own upbringing, what did your dad teach you about the kind of parent you would like to be?
I think for me, the story changes. As much as I lost him at a tender age, I have an amazing stepdad.
Okay.
You know, somebody whom, if we were to walk here and you'd see us, you wouldn't even know that he's my stepdad. I think what he's taught me more than anything is just, to be there. You know, he's been there throughout, I think more than 20 years of knowing this person. It was his birthday actually yesterday.
Oh, happy birthday.
Yeah, no, he's an amazing dad. He's a person whom I always look up. Whenever I'm also at fault, he's one person whom I look up to say this, I'll change this and that, because by virtue of just mirroring him as well.
Yeah.
There's a lot that I see that he doesn't tell me, but there's a lot that I see in terms of how he moves, how he does certain things. It's very much involving as well. Kids need to feel involved. Especially me being the only boy in the family, I'm surrounded by sisters. So the only brother in the family is involved. It's beautiful to see how he's actually incorporated me. To always giving me that role, you're surrounded by, a woman, and it's just me and you. That already from a tender age gave me this beautiful responsibility. Just, hey, I want to make him proud. You know? I want to do this and that and that. And I then had daughters as well.
Sure. So much to be grateful for in that. Because I think that then allowed you to model a behavior that was shown to you, by your stepdad. And I think it brings into question brings into play the real life effect of positive male role models. What do you have to say for that?
I think that, having him being present, having him actually playing a critical role in the family as well, and making me aware that I have far greater purpose than anything. That actually allowed me to go to school and just know a lecture hall, a gym hall, and my commune. Nothing more, nothing beyond that as well.
Yeah.
There are times where I'd be typing a research report in a taxi driving to KZN.
Yeah.
So I think what it taught me is that I want to be like you, as much as you don't show in terms of, financial contributions, but you show up, So with me, it's exactly the same. Whether you're a cousin, you're ing, they know exactly when they come to me, things are just sorted automatically. So I think it has taught me that, and also to embrace, when a person seeks out help. Yeah, he's an amazing dad. He's a superhero for me as well. I don't know what else to say about him. It's just great.
Super dad made a super dad.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to finish the sentence.
All right.
Okay. Fatherhood is?
Magical. Done right.
The hardest thing about being a father is?
Showing up.
The best thing about being a father is?
Little hugs.
Children need more?
Nurturing.
Fathers need more?
Fathers need more. So I'd say fathers need more support and understanding.
I wish more men knew?
That being a man is more than just what biology defines you to be.
Can you elaborate on it? I like that.
Yeah, I think being a man is more than what your organs tell you that you are. It's actually you understanding that you can shape any person by virtue of them interacting with it. Being a man is quite a great responsibility. Bob Marley said that you shouldn't evoke a woman's emotions if you have no intentions to do so. So man is the most powerful creature that has the ability to do that. So in terms of to build, create, and also destroy, I think being a man is like I said, it's just an amazing thing if you know the power that you carry as well. Like I knew I was gonna regret it. I knew it. Not that I made it. No, I just knew it. I promise you, I knew. I don't know how. I just had that thing. I think when I was doing my first year in matric, I knew that if it's not this, I'll be in and out of prisons. If it's not this.
Okay. Well, thank God it's this. Okay. So as a closing reflection, I think many men are concerned that they're doing it wrong, right? If you were to take everything you've learned, both in your clinical practice and in your own life, and give us a template of what being a good father actually looks like, what would you say?
Yeah. I'd say being a good father, you need to understand that reputation goes with you everywhere. Wherever I am, at times I forget, I'm reminded of this other woman I bumped into in Randburg. She was so excited to see. I'm like, what? And I'm like, oh, shucks. It's TV, the what. And then she told me something amazing that, stay grounded. Not a lot of men have that power.
Sure.
I think for me, being this has actually taught me from everything and anything that, as much as I now have the seat in family meetings because I'm a therapist, but it has also taught me that I'm very much aware of other people's emotions.
Yeah.
And what I do from a mere interaction, how that can actually last in a person's mind and heart as well.
Yeah.
So interactions are very important, from taking care of a person who's a cashier to a teller to a CEO. I see people as equals as well.
Yeah.
That for me is it has taught me that. And having the understanding of clinical practice as well, is that everybody wants and knows that they're important. Nobody wants to be made to feel small.
Yeah.
So every interaction should be a greatest transformation more than anything at all.
So basically make people feel seen, make people feel heard, so, which is exactly what you're doing in your work and every day. If your children were to watch this episode 55 years from now, what would you want them to know about their father?
I'd say I love them. I wouldn't say I tried, because you guys can see.
You did.
I love you guys so much, and there's no greater mountain that they can't climb, because I show them the way. They are loved, they're amazing, they're queens and kings, and they should never see themselves as greater than anyone, but they should know that they are the most amazing things to me. They shaped my life. They really did change my life.
Thank you so much for joining us for this chat, which could have been uncomfortable. I think this conversation will resonate with so many fathers, but more than anything, I truly hope that it is what they need to start the road to their own healing, their own awareness, which I think can only make for wonderful children going forward. There you have it, guys. Dr. Beta has shared his own experiences, both as a therapist and as a father. I've come out of this conversation so enriched, and I've really learned so much. So as he said, the goal is not perfection. The goal is presence. Because children don't need perfect parents. They need present ones. My wish for every single father out there is that you'll have an amazing Father's Day, an amazing Men's Mental Health Month, and you'll slowly find the steps that make you truly you. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Tiny Matters with Dr. K. Until the next time, stay kind and stay curious.